Hey, what's up, friends? I got some sound. What's up, friends? I'm ThatChrisChaos. Welcome to Chaos Live. Hopefully, we don't have as many issues as I had during that last live stream. I was using the GoPro, which I did not realize that I had voice commands enabled on the GoPro, and so that was a little bit of a pain because it was taking my commands. Anything that sounded similar to me saying GoPro and all these other things. It kept on doing all this crazy stuff, and it made live stream really weird. If you want to go back and watch the replay and see all the little struggle that was going on, you can check that out as well. But this time, I had the GoPro on, but I only use it for maybe a couple of shots. Maybe like if I wanted to come over here to like the website over here for ThatChrisChaos to show you the merch or whatever. But for the most part, I won't be really using the GoPro too much. I just wanted to leave it on during the live stream just to kind of mess with it, see how kind of things go with using it. But I have the stuff turned off, so it won't do anything crazy like that. So just change the modes maybe a couple of anything crazy. So what's happening? Welcome to Chaos Live. What do we have? We have going on chat. We have T-Dog2000 who joined for a little bit before we went live just to say hi, but I guess couldn't stay. I'm assuming kind of messed with it, so he couldn't stick around. Things go with using it. But I have the stuff turned off, so it won't do anything crazy. And then we got, what else we have? We have John, who says he's an ex-Army cook. Welcome, John. Thank you for joining the live stream. And we got Jay the Vorn. What's up, Chris? Hope you and everyone are well. Heads up, I'm at work right now, so excuse me if I'm very active, not very active in the comments. Also, you have that echo problem again. Dang it. It won't do yes. Do I really? And then we got, what else we have? We have John, who says he's an ex-Army cook. Got it. Desktop audio was playing because over here there's a preview. Where's the preview at? One of these has a preview. This is where it's at. That's where my audio source is coming from. All right. Sorry about that. Sometimes you just got to work with it. You gotta try to find the stuff. Hopefully, let me see my audio sources. Hopefully the echo should be gone now. Shouldn't have to worry about the echo, hopefully. I had apparently the preview of the live stream or the live stream thing going on over there. How about an update? Echo gone? Is the echo still there as of right now? As of me telling you this part right here, we should be okay. I have that one muted over there, and this video over here is muted, so we should be okay with that. But welcome to Chaos Live. Hey Chris, first time for me coming out to the stream, watching a few of your vids and subscribed though. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brendan. So awesome for that. Yeah, so this is Chaos Live. This is my, I guess you could say, somewhat weekly-ish kind of thing that I do on here. Usually I have some topics that I talk about, it'll cover some stuff like over here. I don't have a whole lot this time. I'm not very well prepared for this episode. I don't even have a Chaos Minute-ish for you guys for this one, so not as prepared for that. I don't even have a shout out. I don't have a lot of stuff. This might be a shorter version. Usually I try to make these things last about an hour. This one maybe we might be looking more at 30 minutes for this episode. But hopefully it's fun and entertaining for you guys, and we can hang out and have a good time. But kind of the rules, how it goes is if you have questions related to the military, you can leave them in the live chat, and I can try my best to answer them. If you're watching this from the post-live version, when it's no longer live anymore, from the replay, then you can leave comments in the chat or questions in the, or not the chat, but the comments section down below, and I can try to answer those as well. But for the most part, we'll work with people here inside of the chat for live here and here. What do we got? We got always. Anyways, Chris, I'll probably leave you some comments and questions though the hour, and we'll catch this later tonight. Awesome. Cool. We'll do it either way. If you guys watch it, live, it's awesome too. If you have the time during your day. If not, then maybe you're watching this from the replay. Hayden asks, does the Army do PT every morning? For the most part, yes. I mean, there's going to be a few exceptions. You have maybe, obviously the weekends, because you get the weekends off, unless you're doing some kind of training event or something like that. But even when you're doing training events, you're usually not doing PT during those training events. But for the most part, Monday through Friday, you're doing PT. There will be a few exceptions here and there, whether it be a holiday, obviously, or if you have mission. Like if you're busy on mission, then you may not do PT. They may make you do PT later in the day after you come back off of mission, or you might just end up skipping PT altogether. So audio is okay. Audio is good. Chat might be a little bit behind from where I'm seeing this, so apologize for that. I don't really need the desktop audio. I was going to say that was my audio source earlier that was echoing, but I don't actually need it anyways. But it was because there was a video playing in the background. But anyways, Derek, hey Chris, first time logging on, currently stationed at Fort Carson. Awesome. I work on Fort Carson, so you may potentially go through some of my training. I am an instructor on Fort Carson. That was my last duty station before I got out of the Army. My very last unit before I got out was 410 Cav on Fort Carson. But while I was stationed in Fort Carson, I was with the 3rd ACR for a while before they moved to Texas. And then I went over to 204th, and I was only with 204th, though, for like 4, 5, 6 months, something like that. I don't remember. It wasn't very long. Before going to 29 Cav, and then 29 Cav redesignated as 410 Cav. So 410 Cav was my very last duty station on Fort Carson. Now I work on Fort Carson, so if you come through the MTC and you decide you're going to do some JCR training or even participate in exercise, sometimes I'm helping out and doing stuff with the exercises, but I am one of the JCR instructors. So stop by, take the class, learn about how to operate a JCR, and I'll teach you. For now, until I make it rich on YouTube, but that probably still is a very, very long time, if ever. What else we got? Ken, do you know if the Army Airmen have to ruck and stay in the field after AIT? Thanks. The Army Airmen? Are you talking about like Army guys attached to the Air Force, or are you talking about Air Force guys attached to the Army? Otherwise, for the most part, a lot of people do, various amounts of rucking. Doing road marches with your rucksack on, that's calling doing ruck marches. Infantry does a lot of ruck marches. Other MOSs don't do them quite as much unless your unit is really hardcore about it. I was not infantry, but like when I was in Korea, they were pretty hardcore about doing road marches. So we did a lot of road marches in Korea. One of when I was in 3rd ACR, we had a first sergeant that was pretty high speed and all about ruck marching. So we did quite a few ruck marches then. I didn't really do a whole lot when I was in 410 Cav. Because I was in support and we didn't do a whole lot there, but it just kind of depends. But if you're talking about Army guys attached to airmen, probably not, because the Air Force probably doesn't do really any ruck marches at all, if any. And if you're an airman with the Army or something like that, it just depends on the unit, I guess. So I guess that would kind of depend. Hey, dude, I love your channel. Well, thank you. Thank you. Was it Ravage, the Average Gamer? I'm bad with names. I'm horrible. But that's not really a name. That's probably some cool channel you maybe have going on that maybe you're building up. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to check that out later. Logan, do you have to go to air school before you go to Ranger training? You're talking about airborne school? So it depends. If you are going simply just to go to Ranger school, which is just the kind of like advanced leadership course, that one, no. There is a phase in Ranger school that you will, like towards the end, during the Florida phase, it's towards the end of the training, where if you are airborne qualified, then you will air jump into the training area. If you're not, they bus you in. But if you're talking about RASP, which is the training you have to go through to become a Ranger in the 75th Ranger Regiment, then yes, you have to go through airborne school to be able to go to the 75th Rangers. But if you're just simply not trying to become an actual Ranger, you're not trying to go to the 75th Rangers, and you're just trying to go to Ranger school just to get the Ranger tab, then no, you don't have to do Ranger school or do airborne school if that's what you're doing. What else do we got? So Derek, my ETS is about 3 months after I get back from deployment. Is this enough time to prepare for transition? What would you recommend I do on deployment to prepare? So you're kind of in a similar situation like I was when I was getting out of the Army. I was the ammo NCOIC. I was in charge of all the ammo, so we were in the process of going to the National Training Center. I was supposed to get out of the Army. I was going to be ETS in March, but I had enough leave to where my terminal leave would push me back to final line out by the end of January. So I needed to start clearing in January. And we were going to NTC in November. I was supposed to stay behind to go on Rear D and start my clearing stuff and start doing ACAPing to process out of the Army and get all that schooling in that they have for you. And they needed me because my replacement was not yet trained up well enough to be able to take over all the responsibilities that I had. So they really needed me to go with them to the National Training Center. So I got stuck going to the National Training Center in November when I was supposed to be getting out in January. So it kind of really screwed me on time. And I really only had like 30 days to start doing ACAP stuff, which is not enough time. 3 months is a little bit better, but still not much better than like what I had. I had a month basically of doing ACAPing. There's probably not a whole lot you can really do, especially if you're on a deployment. I'm sure you mean like what you like probably deployed to Europe, because there's not a whole lot of people. I mean, you could be or you're the Fort Carson guy. So okay, yeah, you're in Europe. So I mean, you can maybe try to clean some of your TA-50 so that some of it's clean when you get back. Maybe there's certain things less. That's going to be kind of difficult. There's not a whole lot, really, because when you come back, you'll start doing some of the ACAP classes. And all those are on post on Fort Carson that you're going to have to go through to, maybe do like a resume writing class. You'll have just different things that'll teach you about the GI Bill, how to use your GI Bill benefits. But there's not really a whole lot you can probably do while you're deployed before coming back. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle. It's going to be a lot of last minute stuff that you're going to be stuck trying to do. It's going to maybe suck a little bit. But, sometimes it's, I guess, the hand you get dealt. It's like a situation I was, like I said, I only had a month to go through ACAPing. But yeah, you're going to have a lot of appointments to go through. There's not really a whole lot you can probably do from Europe to try to go through and try to prepare for all that stuff. But good luck to you. Hopefully it works out well. So that means you probably won't be going through my JCR class. To no point in you learn JCR if when you come back you're getting the heck out of the Army. Let's see. I'm in your airborne video. You did explain the difference between airborne and Halo. Sure. So there's another school you can get. Halo isn't usually something you can just get from anybody. A lot of times Halo is usually only offered for special operations, like special forces can do Halo. Airborne, you're simply just jumping out of a plane. You have it attached to the cord if you watch the airborne video, and it pulls the chute for you. And you parachute down and you go to the ground. You're not doing skydiving like you would think of in like the civilian world. Now, if you were lucky enough to go to Halo, that is from a very high altitude. I don't remember what the altitude is, but it's pretty high. It's a little bit higher, I'm pretty sure, than like normal just going skydiving for like a commercial one for recreational or whatever purposes. So it's a much higher altitude, and you kind of learn how to skydive in that school, and you'll learn how to kind of skydive and all that, and do a little bit more stealthier kind of stuff. They have different parachutes. They don't even use the same parachutes that you use when you're doing regular airborne school. They have some other high-speed parachutes that they use. I don't know what the model number or the type, the names of those parachutes are, but they're a little more high-speed than your regular parachutes that you would do for airborne school. But like I said, it's not a school that you're just gonna be able to join the Army and then like go to your unit and be like, hey, I want to go to Halo school. You're most likely not going to get it. It's kind of a select thing where they're going to kind of reserve that for special operations to be able to do Halo, because otherwise it's kind of pointless to waste all that time on you to go through all that school. So Ken, 15 Tango Blackhawk repairer maintainer. Awesome. So is that what you... Oh, wait. Are you talking about what you are or what you're going to do? If you're talking about for the ruck marching kind of a thing, if you're a Blackhawk repairer, I would not imagine you would do a whole lot of ruck marching, with the exception of if your unit is big on it for like PT, on sergeant's time training and stuff like that. Otherwise, probably not. You probably won't do a lot of that kind of a thing. Logan, so at the end of the Ranger school, will they give you an option to go to RASP, or do you have to request that? Yeah, you'll have to put in for that. You'll have to request to go to RASP, to go through Ranger stuff. Now, in the video, so at the end of Ranger school, I don't know if I said video, but so you maybe check out my video. If you haven't seen it, there's a video on my channel talking about Rangers, how to become a Ranger in the Army, and it talks about both Ranger school and RASP as well. But essentially, if you go through and become a Ranger, you go through RASP and you go through the Ranger Regiment, before you become a non-commissioned officer, you have to do Ranger school. after you've gotten selected. And that's even if you got selected, because you can go through RASP, and it's kind of similar to SF selection. You could go through the whole thing and then not get selected. But if you get selected and you go to the 75th Rangers and you work your way up to become a sergeant, or if you're an officer, then you have to do Ranger School as well. So you could do it the other way around. You don't necessarily have to do Ranger School first and then go to RASP. You could do RASP first and then later go to Ranger School. It just kind of, I guess, depends on how you want to kind of work it, I guess. But if you check out that Ranger video, it'll explain a lot from that. It's on my channel for how to become a Ranger. My old Army buddy went through Ranger School and it had massive weight, fluctuation problems afterwards. So yeah, I mean, they kind of starve you. Both of that, and if you go through SFAS for Special Forces, they want to make sure that you can be sleep deprived and food deprived and still be able to function under pressure and stuff. So you probably maybe have some craziness going on from that. Hey man, if you ever want someone to game with, hit me up. Awesome. I'll be sure to maybe after this live stream, maybe go stop by your channel and check it out and give it a look. I don't do a whole lot of gaming. I like video gaming. It's fun. Just sometimes I don't have time to do it. Either I'm doing stuff with this channel, doing other things around the house, things with work. It just kind of depends. So I don't always have free time, but I like it. I like playing games. I'm not really that good at multiplayer games, but I'll see. And then I occasionally on this channel going to be doing some gaming stuff, and then I have a gaming-ish channel. If you want to check it out, if you go to my if you go to this main channel, it'd be on the right-hand side on the little suggested side. It says my other channels, and it's called Chaos Plays Games. It's not a whole lot to it right now, and I'm not 100% sure if I really will do a lot of gaming stuff on there, but that's the idea, is that maybe if I really have the motivation to want to do a lot of gaming stuff, I'll do it on that channel, and then once in a great while on this channel, I might do some live streams for some gaming, but it'll probably be like kind of late at night, maybe. That's kind of like the theme that I will do on this channel. If I do live streams, it'll be like late at night live streams kind of a thing. So maybe I won't be able to do it this weekend. This weekend I got duty at work, so I'll be pretty busy at work this weekend. What else we got? We got it's your boy Red. Hey, what's up? Thanks for answering my question about rucking. Yeah, no problem. Hopefully it kind of helped with it, but yeah, for the most part, it's based on the unit and based on your MOS. But if you're not infantry, it's really mostly based on your unit, as far as if you're gonna do a lot of rucking or not. Another question about airborne school. From what I understand, you aren't free falling, right? You're on a parachute from when you jump out and when you hit the ground. Correct. Yes, you do not do really any free falling. You should not. If you are free falling through airborne school or through any of the training after you do airborne school, something's wrong. Maybe something wrong with your parachute, and you're gonna have to use that reserve, because you have a reserve along with you. But yeah, for the most part, there's no free falling. That cord is attached to a line. You jump out of the plane. As you come out of the plane, you might have maybe like 2 seconds of sort of free falling. But your parachute's coming out pretty much immediately. It's kind of pulling your parachute out just enough time. You're only falling really for enough time for you to clear the plane, and your parachute's pretty much open by then. So you don't have to, you're not doing that. If you want to do free falling stuff, then you have to do Halo. And like I said, Halo is really only available probably for Special Forces or other special ops units. Maybe PsyOps might get to do it. I don't know if Rangers, maybe, but special operations kind of units would be the ones that are going to get the priority on Halo. There might be some other special occasions, but for the most part, I'm sure it'd be pretty difficult. So, do you consider the 160th SOAR out of Fort Campbell a special operations unit? I'm not too familiar with it, so I don't know. I can't really comment on it. I'm not familiar with that unit, so I don't know. Paul, what's happening, man? Can you do Ranger School right after basic training? Yes. If you do, it's option 40. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. So if you go and you talk to your recruiter and you say you want to join in the Army to become a Ranger, then you're most likely going to, if it's available, going to go in with option 40. Now, currently, as of right now, I believe it's still going on where they're offering a bonus. So you can get some extra money for doing option 40 for coming into the Army with the intent of going Ranger. You'll go through your basic training. So you're going to go through OSIT because you're basically going to be an 11 X-ray. You're going to go through, I think you're probably going to be 11 X-ray, I think, when you do the option 40 area. But you're essentially going to go through basic, or you're going to go through as an 11 X-ray, which means you're going to go through OSIT, which is basic and AIT all combined for the infantry, through Fort Benning. And then from there, you're going to probably go on to airborne school, and then from airborne school, you're going to go on to RASP. But you have to get that into your contract to go option 40. Otherwise, once you go through all your training, you go to your unit, and you have to request to go to RASP if you want to try to become an actual Ranger in the 75th Ranger Regiment. Thanks for getting to my question, Chris. How did you get connected with your job on Fort Carson? I actually knew a friend that used to work there, and I went through there for BNOC back when it was still called BNOC. Now it's what, I forget what it is, for the school for E6. I forget what it's called now, but it was redesignated. But back then it was still called BNOC when I went through. And I went through there for some BNOC training and happened to see this guy that I knew who was working there. And I was like, hey, let me know if there's any job openings that open up once, you know, when I get out of the Army, because I was probably about 8 months away from getting out of the Army. So I got out of the Army, went to school for a couple semesters before he hit me up and said that, hey, we have there's a job opening for it, and I'll put in a good word for you. And so I got the connection for it. But if you don't have that kind of hookup like I did, a lot of times to get these types of jobs, it's just a matter of going to like websites like Indeed. I forget what that other website's called that's specifically geared towards people with a secret clearance, because that's really how you get some of the really good jobs that are contracted through the military, is through having a secret clearance. And those jobs usually will be posted on like Indeed and, was it clearance.com, I think is what it's called, or military, I don't forget. Something like that. It's one of those job websites where you can search if you have like a clearance, because those particular jobs are specifically looking for prior military people who have like a security clearance. So that's kind of how I got hooked up with it. A little insight on my work thing is they're kind of going back and forth between contract, and our contract is coming up for renewal pretty soon. So there's a possibility that with a new contract, they're going to be looking to fill maybe some new slots. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how things go. It's going to be kind of shaky ground when we get to that point of the stage of this whole mess of all of that. So we'll see how that kind of goes. What else do we have? Basic airborne school uses a method called static line jumps, where chute is opened as soon as you clear the plane. Yeah, so there you go. So Jay the Vorn, he left a really good tip on the airborne video, so check that out. He was a parachute rigger in the Army, so he's got some pretty good advice for that kind of stuff. If you want to, I don't know, maybe he'll let you send you some messages if you want. I don't know, but for the most part, he knows some pretty good info from inside stuff from that. Brother said the airborne school or airborne stuff rocks havoc on your knees. Yeah, it does. I know quite a few people that have, like, for example, if you guys watched a couple of live streams back where I have my friend and coworker David talks about his very first airborne jump going through airborne school. He later went on to be in an actual airborne unit and was consistently doing airborne jumps, and he really jacked up his knee doing a jump into Australia. So yeah, and now he gets, some compensation from the VA for his messed up knees from doing that. And there's other people that I know from the military that were in airborne units, or maybe not necessarily, just simply went to jump school and then never jumped out of a plane ever again. But more likely the people that were in like airborne units that were consistently jumping a lot of those people end up with some pretty messed up knees from all that stuff. Ever seen the movie Bruno and the one scene where he tried to attend National Guard OCS? Very funny. I don't think so. I mean, it sounds familiar. Is that with Sacha Baron Cohen or whatever in that movie? It sounds familiar, but I do not believe I have seen that movie. So if someone was to graduate mountain school and then go to Ranger school and RASP, you would have to go to airborne school. So would you have both the airborne and the mountain tab? I believe so. I don't. There's a limit on how many tabs you're allowed to wear. I think two might be the limit. So you can't go necessarily have. I don't think. I'm not 100% sure on that though. So you can't necessarily do airborne, mountain, and special forces and just have all these rows of tabs on there. I believe 2 is the limit that you could be able to show on your uniform. So technically, yes, if you just had those 2, you just had airborne and mountain, sure, you'd be able to. I'm pretty sure you'd be able to rock both of those tabs. How does a enlistment bonus work do you have to look for a certain MOS? So yeah, it'll vary. It'll change from time to time. An Army recruiter would be the best person to really find it. You can sometimes find out about bonuses by just simply doing a Google search, and you'll be taken to usually the goarmy.com website, and they'll have like a list of current MOSs, but it's still always best to check with a recruiter because that website may not have been updated with some of the other ones that maybe have been more recently added, or maybe some of those have been taken off, because it usually depends on like how high of a need there is for people in that job. So usually if there's a very high need for people in that job, and it's a very difficult job sometimes as well, then usually the bonuses are pretty high. For example, I think it was like satellite repairer or radar repairer or something like that right now offers like a $40,000 bonus. I forget, something crazy like that. I do have a video on bonuses, which talks about at that time some of the bonuses they were offering, but it's always best to check with a recruiter. But yeah, you would talk to a recruiter, find out what jobs right now are offering bonuses, and then you'd have to from there try to find out if you qualify for those jobs, because that'll still play into it. If you qualify for those jobs, then possibly you can join and get a bonus. They even have it where if you join and ship off to basic within like 60 days of joining, then you can get an additional bonus for that. Sometimes some bonuses can be combined, and sometimes you can combine stuff together to make your bonus a little bit bigger. So an Army recruiter, though, is always the best person to talk to find out information about some of that kind of stuff. Jay the Vorn, Special Operations Aviation Regiment SOAR. Is it the name, bro? Okay, so you're asking Jay the Vorn some stuff. I don't know anything about that unit, so I wouldn't know. My best guess is I would end up Googling it and maybe finding some information on there. So why does everyone in the military hate JROTC goods? I don't know if it's everybody, but I am sure it's, maybe some of it has to do with, I don't know. Are you talking about like people that come from JROTC to come into the Army? I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to take a guess as to why some people would. I really never cared. There may have been like a couple of people that I knew that said they went through JROTC when they were in high school before coming into the Army, and they got to come in as a PFC because they went through the whole thing as an E3, which is the pay grade. But I wouldn't say it's everybody. I would say that there might be some people that maybe, I don't know, just think it's, I don't know, maybe some people just think it's dumb that some people wanted to do military stuff when they were in high school instead of partying. I don't know, but I wouldn't, my personal opinion, I don't feel like it's everybody that probably feels like that. So let's, if you notice, I have this topic over here. I had this actually in my last live stream, but I realized after the live stream, I forgot to actually talk about it. So my next little fitness challenge, I was doing that whole 30-day of PT kind of a thing where I was doing Army-style PT for 30 days. If you are newish and didn't get to see that series, it's still on my channel. So if you, I think I have it moved towards the bottom of the playlist kind of area, I believe. Let's see. But you can essentially go and check that out if you want to. And it kind of shows you my progress of kind of working out and doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's kind of near the bottom. If you go to my channel, it's toward the bottom. There's a playlist called Army PT 30-day challenge. So it is 30-day challenge. It was okay. I wasn't super motivated about it. I mean, I was motivated about it for the first little while, but then I got a little bit discouraged. But now there's a new challenge that I want to try to do, and I'm going to start training for it. And there is a mountain in Colorado called Pikes Peak. I have never climbed to the top of Pikes Peak. It is 13 miles uphill, very high elevation. 13 miles doesn't sound like a long ways, but it's 13 miles of rough terrain, uphill, with some crazy elevation differences. So it is a challenge, and I'm excited. I think it'll be a pretty cool thing to be able to do. But, however, I'm hoping that I can do it to where I can do the challenge where I go up to Pikes Peak and back down in the same day. A lot of people will do it up. Some people will go back down, but some people will just go to the top and then have someone pick them up at the top, because there is like a little visitor center up there that you can drive up to and overlook Colorado Springs from up there. So the idea is that me and a buddy, David, actually it was from that live stream before, talking about his very first airborne jump, we're going to start training up for it to get in good shape so that we can hopefully climb up that 13 miles and then back down the 13 miles. So it's 20-something miles round trip. So it's going to take pretty much most of the day. So we're going to start preparing for it. There's a place in Colorado Springs, or it's actually in Manitou, called the Manitou Incline. It's got some crazy little stairs, kind of a thing that's a mile up, but it's a mile uphill of stairs, so it's pretty nuts. We utilize that to kind of train. Also, just to the, I guess, south of the Manitou Incline is the Bar Camp Trail, and that is kind of the halfway point of going up to the mountain. So we're going to hike to the Bar Camp and then hike back down. So that'll also help prepare us for, making the long hike all the way to the top of Pikes Peak. And throughout that process, it's not going to be a set schedule like I was doing with the PT challenge. It's just going to be when I get a chance to train for it and do some of the stuff to train for it, I will bring out the camera and I'll record some of the progress and some of the stuff that I'm doing or me and David are doing to prepare for Pikes Peak, and put them into episodes when I have some content to put them into an episode. And it'll be called most likely The Road to Pikes Peak. Hopefully by maybe September, I'm hoping by, we'll be able to make the journey to the top of Pikes Peak and hike back down. So be on the lookout for my next little adventure, the road to Pikes Peak, where we're going to try to hike to the top. Should be awesome. Should be exciting. I'm hoping. Hopefully it doesn't kill me. What else we have? Any feeling towards morale waivers, recipients having a hard time getting one? A moral or morale waivers? I'm not even sure what that is. You talking about just waivers in general? I don't know if you're talking about just waivers, because I mean, there's a lot of different waivers that you can get in the military and the Army, but I don't know if that's a specific one for morals or for morale waivers. I don't know. Maybe that's the category they roll them up into for certain waivers. I'm not familiar with it in that type of term, so you might have to elaborate a little bit better for me. Ghost Drew, what's up? So why would a corpse soldier get a degree in biology? What are you talking about with a corpse soldier? In biology? I don't know. Like if you want to be a doctor? I'm not sure about your question either. That's two questions in a row, then I'm not sure what you guys are talking about too much. Become a marine biologist. So is that what you're talking about? I don't know. Can you do that? I don't know what kind of MOS you could do in the Army to translate over to a marine biologist. I don't know if there is one. There might be something in the Navy or something else, but there's no reason I can think of why you would have any kind of MOS that would work with marine life, and you would get any kind of training for that kind of thing. Like I said, maybe something in the Navy. I don't know if there is something in the Army that could kind of do that with. Maybe, I don't know, it might be, but I don't know. Holy smokes, that's a long road march. Good luck, man. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, it'll be very long. We're not going to overdo it. I'm probably just going to carry a bag that has Gatorade and some fluids in it, and maybe some snacks and a little bit of food. But we're not trying to do it with like anything crazy, like a vest and all sorts of other stuff. And then I'll probably have some camera gear, because I'm going to document the whole thing when we actually do the journey up to the top of Pikes Peak and back down with the 20-something miles. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully I can complete it. I think we'll have it set up to where I'll have like a contingency plan, so that if we go all the way up to the top and we are too exhausted to be able to hike back down, then maybe we have something where someone's going to come pick us up if it ends up in that situation. But I'm hoping that we'll be in good enough shape that we'll get to the top and we'll be like, okay, tired, but I can do it back down. We'll be fine. So that's the goal, hopefully, though. So we'll see if it works out that way. Richard Hansen, what is up, man? Welcome to the live stream. So when you get out of basic, do you go to Ranger School or RASP? Only if you request it. But that would have to be like not typically Ranger School necessarily, but RASP. If you had the option 40, you could go straight from basic to RASP from there, but not typically unless you had it in your contract. Criminal waivers. Okay, so what are my thoughts on it? Is that what you're asking right before? Any feelings on moral waivers? Recipients hard times getting one. I don't know. I mean, there's certain ones that, the Army is kind of being more lenient towards. I had that video before on how they're being a little more lenient towards, like, if you smoked weed recently, for example, and they're offering waivers for people if they did a little bit of marijuana and want to join the Army, and they tell you that, hey, you're under the understanding that if you're going to join the Army and you did some marijuana recently or whatever, that's cool, but just be advised that once you're officially in the Army, if you do it again, you're going to get in trouble for it. So I'm okay with that. I mean, marijuana is becoming more of an acceptable thing. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm just not interested in it. Plus, even if I was interested in it, I can't because I have a security clearance, and that'd be against the rules of having a security clearance. But I feel like it really has no same effects as, like, someone who wants to drink alcohol, kind of a thing. But so I don't really care about that with people coming in. And then certain other waivers, certain smaller crimes, usually they'll let you come in with a waiver on certain things, but obviously larger crimes, you get by with that. So sometimes the waivers, I guess, depends. I would not be a fan of it if they were like, oh, you committed rape a couple times, we'll just waive it and let you come on in. I would hope that would not be a case. I'm pretty sure that's not a case, but that'd be horrible. It's a play on words. Oh, okay. I thought you were asking Ghost Drew. I thought you were actually asking about, like, someone becoming a marine biologist in the Army, which I didn't think it was a possible thing. If I want to become a warrant officer later on and retake the ASVAB and do worse than the first time that I go back in my initial MOS, well, if you were... I don't think they make you retake the ASVAB to go warrant, though. I'm not 100% sure of that. I don't think they make you retake the ASVAB to go warrant. It's more of a thing where if you've been in the Army for a certain amount of time, you get a certain rank, and you want to go warrant, then you can do so. And you have to go through some schooling. You have to pass the schooling to be able to become a warrant officer. Unless you are going into a warrant officer to be a pilot, then there is no really time limit or really rank requirement to go warrant for aviation. But you shouldn't have to retake the... we shouldn't have to retake the ASVAB for that. But if you, let's say you go warrant and you go through the schooling and you don't pass the schooling, then yes, you would just simply go back to whatever your job was before going to warrant officer school. And then if you pass, then you move on and become, warrant officer. But otherwise, yeah, you don't have any kind of crazy thing where if you don't pass warrant, they're going to just throw you in some other MOS. Nothing crazy like that, if that's what you're kind of asking. Do you have any injuries from your time in the Army? Minor stuff, a little bit of hearing loss, tinnitus. I do have, like, anxiety, so from being in the Army, nothing really serious, kind of a thing. The anxiety kind of thing is annoying, yeah. It's essentially like, I used to love going to concerts. I love going to, heavy metal, hard rock concerts and everything like that. And it's hard for me to go now because I have anxiety that I'm going to go to this concert and there's going to be idiots that get drunk and wasted and are bumping into you and making you upset and angry. So, I mean, that makes it hard for that. It also makes it hard sometimes to go to, like, events. I'm a big UFC fan, and I still, whenever I get an opportunity to go to a UFC fight, try to go to see a live UFC fight. But prior to going to that UFC fight, I have anxiety because I'm afraid that, I'm going to get stuck with some guy behind me that's going to be loud and obnoxious and spill beer on me and all sorts of crazy stuff. But as far as any serious, like, injuries, as far as like a messed up elbow or knees or anything, no. I was a truck driver, so the hearing is kind of the only kind of really physical injury type of thing, hearing loss, and it's my left ear. And they even told me that, that's a common one for a lot of soldiers, is to get hearing loss in their left ear, because when you are aiming your weapon downrange, that is the ear that's facing downrange. So that's the one more prone to hearing loss and all that kind of stuff. So that ends up being kind of what happens, I guess. Where did I leave off? Do you still address the Sergeant Major of the Army as Sergeant Major? I'm trying to think. I have met one Sergeant Major of the Army. I think you just still call him Sergeant Major. I don't think you call him Sergeant Major of the Army. But although I do, I think I do remember some of the people that I was with referring to him as Sergeant Major of the Army. That was back in the day when it was Sergeant Major Jack Tilley. I met him in Korea. He came and did a dinner, and me and several other people went to the dinner and got to meet him and everything like that. Not 100% sure on that. I want to say there was people doing both, just referring to him as Sergeant Major, but then I think there was some people that were referring to him as Sergeant Major of the Army, but not 100% sure on that. So, stole a car when I was 17. I'm 30 now. As a juvenile, I don't know if they're as serious on you as had it been something you've done as an adult. They might be a little more lenient because it was something done as a juvenile, but I'm not 100% sure. Like everything that I ever give anybody advice on, always double check and confirm, with a recruiter if it's something that you're really serious about. If it's just something you're curious about, then sure, you can stick with whatever I say. But if it's something you are serious about, like you want to be in the military and you have this prior record of stealing, a car back when you were 17, you're not sure if you can get in, then in my opinion, I believe that juvenile stuff sometimes doesn't carry as much weight as if you were an adult, depending on what the crime was. So they may be leaning on that, but always check with a recruiter. They might let you kind of slide on that one. So, what are we talking about? 28 whiskey here, average gamer. I'm not sure. I don't even know what a 28 whiskey is. Hi, I'm planning on joining the Army a few months. What happens if you have a hard time completing an obstacle course? It's not a bit like if you're talking about like in basic training, they'll have obstacle courses and stuff in basic training. You'll get yelled at. That's not really a requirement when you're going through basic training. The requirement is going to be like the PT test, weapons qualification. I don't know how it is like nowadays, but I know like back when I went to do basic training and everything, we had some people that really struggled to qualify with their weapon. And what they ended up doing a lot of times was kind of going and like helping them, a little bit too much. The drill sergeant would, okay, he's close to qualifying, so I'll shoot a couple of his targets down from a little bit back behind him, and we'll call it good. That was my experience with some of that. But PT test, no. They're not going to do some of your push-ups for you. PT test is really one of the big ones. Now, obstacle course stuff, you might get yelled at if you're having such a hard time getting through an obstacle, doing some of that stuff. They may get in your face, and you may have a rough time, in addition to having a hard time getting through the obstacle, on top of the drill sergeant really getting in your face and yelling at you because you're not completing the obstacle, but they're not going to kick you out of Army because you failed to complete the obstacle. They're just probably going to give you a really hard time. So the PT test is really the big focus, really, I would say, when you're in basic training, is the PT test and doing what you're told and all that kind of stuff. So I have to get a 110 or a 101. You're talking about, what are we talking about? You're talking about, I don't remember where we were talking about for your stuff. Oh, for the warrant. Yeah, it's probably like a 110. That'd be your GT score, which comes off of your ASVAB. So yeah, so if you're talking about, you have a 101. Okay, I get it now what you're saying. So you have a 101 and you need a 110 to be able to qualify for warrant officer. Yes. So if you go through and you do the ASVAB and you do worse, then you're just going to have to keep trying until you can score a high enough score to get a 110. But if you have less than a 110 and you do even worse, I don't know if they'll lower your GT score. So if say you do worse and now all of a sudden your GT score is like 99, I don't know if they'll just keep your highest one that you've done, or they're going to give you your last one, but it's not really going to affect your current MOS. So you say like me, I was an 88 Mike. If you're currently, say just for an example purposes, you're an 88 Mike, you go through and you're trying to become a warrant officer and you take the ASVAB test and you score worse. I'm not sure, if they take that worse score, if they keep your old one, but it's not really going to affect your job as an 88 Mike or the MOS that you are. It's just going to affect your ability to be able to go to warrant officer school until you can score high enough on your ASVAB to be able to do it. But there is a lot of stuff online. I have seen several times just by doing an easy Google search to say, ASVAB study test or ASVAB practice test. And there is a lot of websites that actually offer practice tests for you to go online and practice. Another thing you can do is go into the education center on base, and the education center usually will have some kind of prep course sometimes that you can go through to help prepare you. I've sent a lot of soldiers before when I was in the Army, soldiers that had like under 100, had less than 100 GT score. We would send them to this prep course on post at the education center, and the prep course would kind of prepare you for the ASVAB to retake it and try to score a better, ASVAB. So look into that as well. Go online, check out some of the practice ones, look into your education center and see about doing the prep course for ASVABs for trying to increase your GT score. So you can always do that as well. Recruiter told me to lie about stealing a car. He said no one would find it because it was a juvenile conviction. That is possible. I don't know. I would kind of say if they ask you about your criminal record, they're probably talking about, as an adult. And so if you just don't list it, then they're not going to probably find it. Now, it just depends on if it's on your record when they do a background check, because they're going to do a background check on you, and if that stealing a car when you were 17 is on your record when they do a background check, then they might ask about it. But because it's been a long time in between, I forget how old you say you are currently, but if it's been a long time since that happened, they may look past it, especially if it was during your juvenile record. But I don't know 100% for sure. You said the recruiter, though, told you to lie about it. You might be okay then. If your recruiter told you just to lie about it and not bring it up, then you might be all right. You might be able to get through the system, especially with it being like something that was done when you were a juvenile, kind of a thing. So, what is my favorite band? So I would say my favorite, it sometimes changes as to what my favorite band is. I mean, by default, I like Metallica, but I don't listen to a lot of Metallica really anymore. So Metallica, sure, is kind of considered my favorite band, but I don't listen to Metallica a lot. As far as a band that I listen to a lot is more of the really, really heavy metal stuff, and that's like bands like Parkway Drive, Motionless in White, Miss May I, A Day to Remember. Bands like those are more of the bands I really listen to a lot, though. But as default, I guess Metallica is kind of my favorite band. They were my very first concert I ever went to was Metallica. I grew up listening to Metallica and, had all their albums. I still have all their albums, I guess, but I just don't really listen to Metallica as much as I do bands like Motionless in White and Parkway Drive and stuff. So thanks for answering all my questions. Subscribe. Well, thank you, Ken. Hopefully you enjoy the content. Hopefully you get some good information out of it and you're entertained, because that is the goal here, is to entertain all of you, but also to build a really cool community, I guess, is kind of also part of the goal. Let's go ahead, before we come back to the comments, let's get to our featured question of the episode. Featured question. So if you leave comments on my videos, leave a comment on this after it's been live and you're watching the rerun of it or wherever, you leave some comments in there, I might select your comment as, a featured comment if it's something that I feel like other people can benefit from, and it's a very good comment like this one that we've got here from Jake. Jake, he was watching my airborne video that just went live yesterday, right? I think it was the other day, this week. So, and he watched that video and he wanted to know, if you graduate airborne school and don't go to an airborne unit, can you request to be transferred to one? So it's a very good question, because sometimes people want to go to airborne school because that's what they want to do. They want to jump out of the planes a lot. Sometimes they just want to go because they want to get a qualification badge and that's it, but not necessarily being an airborne unit. But if you go through airborne school, commonly, especially like if you go through airborne school, like right out of basic, for example, you go out of basic or out of OSIT and you go straight into airborne school because you got in your contract, it's pretty common that you're going to go on to an airborne unit from there if the slots are available. But if you came in the Army and then later went to airborne school, you're probably just going to go back to your unit afterwards, and you're going to have to try to, request to go to an airborne unit. But in some cases, you may go through OSIT you go straight from basic training to airborne school, and because of your MOS or whatever, they did not have any slots for you to go to an airborne unit, and you get stuck with just a regular unit. Not super common with some cases, especially like if you're 11 Bravo. Not very common, but the other MOSs, it might be a little more common. And in that case is what you would have to do. So every MOS has like what is called a branch manager. It is a representative that is kind of responsible for like putting you on orders and trying to help you with, your career if you're trying to go to a specific duty assignment or whatever. So you find out the information for who your branch manager is. For your MOS, that's what it's called, your branch manager. So if you have to, Google it, when you get in the Army, because you don't get into your airborne unit that you wanted to get into, find out who your branch manager is, find out how to get a hold of that branch manager, and tell them, hey, I went airborne. I would like to be an airborne unit so that I can frequently do these airborne missions and jump out of, the planes during training events and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to happen probably right away. You're probably going to still be stuck in that very first initial unit for like 1-2 years or something like that before they're going to be able to transfer you to another unit. But that is ideally one of the ways you would have to go about it to try to get an airborne unit if you did not get an airborne unit assigned to you immediately after graduating from airborne school. So thank you to Jake Dobkin for this great question, and hopefully any of you out there that is watching this live stream or the recording of it, can learn a little bit from, Jake's awesome question. So thank you, Jake, for that. Wow, I missed a lot of comments while I was over there doing that. I'm gonna have to come over here to this screen to maybe check out some of these that I may have missed. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through the comments. Thanks for okay, got that. My JROTC first sergeant always jokes to us not to get too close or we'll make him have a flashback. Yeah, maybe. I mean, you don't want to, old school guy, probably seen some crazy stuff. How does one go about joining Honor Guard? Honor Guard, hey, Jake Doblin, how about that? Honor Guard, usually, okay, so you usually have to be 6 foot or above for Honor Guard. And there usually would be a career counselor. It's not usually something you can just go straight into the Army to do. You're going to probably have to go to your very first unit, talk to a career counselor, and say, hey, I'm interested in Honor Guard. Usually they have some kind of, I don't know if they do tryouts or if they just do some kind of like interviews, but usually in most cases you have to be 6 foot or above to qualify to even go to Honor Guard for most cases. But that's kind of a similar thing. Or there's sometimes a recruiter or a career counselor for the Honor Guard that you could contact and try to find out information from that as well, sometimes as well. So, see, what do you think about ROTC and JROTC? I'm hoping to join JROTC next year as a freshman. It's pretty good. Like if you, or maybe especially like if you're interested in joining the Army. If you're interested in joining the Army, it's a great prep kind of thing to teach you about stuff about the Army, like how to do drill and ceremonies, how to march, how to salute, how to address people and certain other things. So it's really good for those kind of things, and I think that's pretty good. Also, it'll help you come into the Army as a higher rank. If you go through JROTC, then you can come into the Army as a PFC. Now, ROTC is a little different. ROTC is a bigger beast kind of a thing. That's in college. That's 4 years. So I won't really dive a lot into that. If you do check out my video on explaining officer rank, I do dive a little bit into ROTC and how that kind of goes. But ROTC would be a college thing, and that's be more with the intention of coming into the Army to become an officer. So you'd go that way. Let's say I qualify expert with all of my weapons. Would I wear all of the badges, or is there a limit to how many badges I can wear? Yeah, there's. I talk about it in my badge video. Trying to remember now. So usually you can have 3 different types going across. So say you qualified. Let's say you qualified expert with the pistol. You qualified marksman with the M4, and maybe you did sharpshooter with some other weapon, right? You could do those 3 across with the little pin that goes underneath it. Now, if you had those 3 across plus other weapons, you did a bunch of other weapons, let's say. I think hanging below them, they're called the little hanging nameplates. I think you can only have 2 hanging below, so you can't get too crazy with it. You're not able to get all crazy with it. But if you check out my video on badges, I believe is what the video is called, if you're explaining U.S. Army badges, you'll see it because it's got, like, in the thumbnail, it's got a bunch of badges and stuff on it. But in that video, I do talk about that and how many is the max that you're allowed to wear in that video. So you can check that out and kind of find out some of that information from there. Let me see. Okay. How long is EMT1 and EM? Is that what it is? EMT2? Well, I don't know what EMT you're talking about, like for like a first responder kind of a thing. I don't know what you're referring to there. You're gonna have to let me know what you're talking about there. Let me see in my other generic chat if it is that what that is. EMT. Sometimes the one you guys are looking at here looks a little bit funky to me. But yeah, it looks like EMT and EMT2 take. I don't even know what EMT. If you're talking about like the first responder thing, I would have no idea how long that takes. How do you become of the President's 100? Oh, that's tough. You have to go to the special, have this weapons qualification thing. It's a really hard thing to get. But they have so the President's 100 is a long tab. It's a really long tab that if you earn it, you can wear it on your uniform, and it's really long, and it spells out President's 100. So it's a really long tab. And it's a tough thing to get. Not a lot of people can get that. And you basically have to go through this little course or this qualification kind of thing with your weapon, and you have to qualify within the top 100 in the nation or whatever it is. It's something really crazy like that. I have seen a couple of guys that have had it. It's a pretty difficult thing to kind of earn to get that President's 100, so it's not an easy thing to get. But I don't know a whole lot of information about it, but I do know that it's a crazy weapons qualification thing, and you have to qualify like in the top 100 in the Army to be able to get that tab. So it's a pretty crazy tab to be able to earn if you can do it. Let's see. Had to get a medical waiver for lower back, no surgery, just a bit of a, was it tumor, I guess? Okay, it was recently approved. Could I still get airborne in my contract, or do I have to get it later on? I don't know because I'm not really 100% sure if they do physicals. Not really physicals before airborne. They would do the physical before you join the Army, and if they put something in your packet that may restrict you from being able to do stuff like that, I don't really know. But then it also comes down to, you know, if you have some lower back problems and stuff like that, do they still bug you bad enough to where, because when you hit the ground, you hit pretty hard. It's not like when you do commercial kind of recreational skydiving kind of thing where you land nice and smooth and then take off running, you know, and everything like that. No, you're hitting the ground pretty good and you're tucking and rolling kind of a thing. So if you've had some previous issues, it also comes down to, would that be a good idea as well? So sometimes you have to consider that kind of stuff. But I don't know if they would put something in your packet that would kind of restrict you from being able to go to airborne because of that. So I'm not really sure. Richard asks, is sniper school in special forces the same as the regular infantry would take? If you're going infantry to SF and been through sniper school, do you have to retake it? I'm pretty sure the special forces have their own version, kind of like how the special forces have their own version of the basic leader course, that is a little bit more in depth or a little bit crazier or whatever the case might be. So I would not imagine that the sniper school that you go to as just an infantryman would be the same sniper school you would go through as a special forces soldier. I'm pretty sure it's going to be more hardcore in the special forces version, probably some more advanced stuff than you would get normally, and like just as being an infantryman and going through sniper school. So, let's see, making sure I'm trying to, some of these it looks like replies to other people's questions and stuff. How do you start a JROTC program? And if you start it, will you be able to be a commanding officer? So no. Okay, well, it's just the first part of it. How do you do JROTC program? Your high school would have to offer it. If your high school has a JROTC program, then it's like an elective kind of a thing in high school. And you go ahead and you sign up for it when you're signing up for your classes in high school to participate in JROTC, and you go through that. Now, all JROTC is going to get you, it's going to get you a little bit of knowledge about the military and everything, but the only advantage it's going to give you when you come into the Army is it'll allow you to come in as an E3, which is a private first class. If you're trying to become an officer, you're going to have to go to college for that still. I have that, like I said, I think I talked about it a minute ago. I don't know if you joined a little bit later, but you have to, if you watch my video on enlisted rank, it does talk about ROTC, which is in college, and that would be kind of your route towards, you know, the rank. You don't have an actual rank of commanding officer. A commanding officer would be like, say, like a captain in the Army who's maybe in charge of a company or whatever, would be like your first commanding kind of position as a captain. And that takes, you know, several years of being in the Army before you work that to that point. Otherwise, after you've done ROTC and you've been commissioned and you come through into the Army and everything like that, you're going to start off as a lieutenant, as a second lieutenant, and then a first lieutenant, and then you can work your way up to captain after several years and several experience and all that kind of stuff. So, what else you have? You have to be 6 foot or tall. Yeah. So talking about the honor guard, I would imagine. Thanks. We'll check out the badges video. Awesome. Thank you. Are you restricted from special forces such as Rangers and or Green Berets if you have a form of red-green color blindness? I'm not sure. I actually have that. I have that. It restricted me from certain MOSs and doing certain stuff, but I do not know if that'll restrict you from Rangers or Special Forces. So I'm not 100% sure on that. I cannot give you a good answer on that. Sorry. How many years being an officer can you retire? It's going to be the same, 20 years. Either enlisted or officer. Usually the cutoff starts at 20 years. Now, it doesn't always necessarily mean that you can retire right at 20 years. But when you hit your 20-year mark, that's when you're eligible to put in for a retirement packet, and either they approve it or they tell you, no, we want you to do a couple more years before we're going to let you retire. But it's going to be kind of similar to the same as enlisted and all that stuff. So, hey, Chris, is it worth becoming an officer after finishing my enlistment contract? Well, you wouldn't necessarily do it after you finish your enlistment contract. You would try to do it during, because like if you say you go into the Army, you're enlisted, and you want to go from enlisted to be an officer, do the green to gold program, you're gonna have to re-enlist for that. So it's kind of a thing. You don't want to go and necessarily end your enlistment contract and then try to come back in the Army as an officer. No, you're gonna want to try to do the green to gold program, and that requires you having to still, in some ways, however they kind of work it, to go to school to be able to get a 4-year degree if you don't already have one, and then work your way through OCS, because you go through OCS, not ROTC. ROTC is when you're in college, and then OCS would be more for someone who already has a degree or for someone who's doing the green to gold program type of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good. If you want to have more leadership positions, you want to make better money, you want to have, a little bit higher responsibility stuff, then, officer is a great way to go. So, Ghost Drew, see you, Chris. Have a great night. See ya, man. And then Lovar Leachland, what's up? Hopefully you're going to start posting more. Cool. Awesome. I always love people being interactive in the comment section of the videos, especially like when you're helping each other out and asking great questions and other people are answering based on their experience and all that stuff. When the Army transitioned from BDUs to ACUs, did you have to pay out of pocket, or did they issue you a new set? No, they issued like 4. I think I got like 4 sets of uniforms during the first initial kind of transformation. But I actually went from BDUs to DCUs, which is the desert uniform, because my very first deployment to Iraq, we were wearing the desert uniforms. And then when we came back, we were still wearing the desert uniforms, and we got issued the ACUs. So I kind of went from DCUs to ACUs. And then I want to say they issued us 4 uniforms and 2 pairs of boots. And then from there, you're kind of responsible for getting your own. But then there's other circumstances sometimes where they, just give out free uniforms. There's certain situations where supply ends up issuing uniforms, so if you like certain types of uniforms, like when they have like the special flame retardant ones, but those you had to return. You didn't get to keep those ones. Those are really comfy though. Those ones were pretty good. Did you spend time with the military police? Not too much. I've known some people that were military police, but I didn't spend a lot of time with them doing anything like any operations or anything like that with them. Working on joining the Navy as an officer, going to be fun. Awesome. Yeah, I'm not opposed to any branch. I feel like just because I was Army does not mean that I feel Army is the best. I think it's really just depending on you and your interests as far as which branch would be the best. I have a neighbor who served in the U.S. Army in Germany during the 1980s. I believe he went through officer candidate school and became a lieutenant. He retired as lieutenant colonel. It's a good way to go. Make some good retirement pay. I'm talking about being the commanding officer of JROTC unit if I started. Oh, okay. So to be even an instructor in JROTC has some pretty strict requirements, because I thought about doing that. I thought it'd be kind of a fun thing to get out of the Army and become a JROTC instructor. In order to even be an instructor in JROTC for high school students, you have to have been at least an E6 in the Army and retired from the Army is pretty much the requirements for that. So if you want to be a commanding officer, I don't know if they have the same, if they require you to be an officer. I know for like ROTC, like for the college level, you have to have been like a major or lieutenant colonel and retired from the Army to qualify to be an instructor for ROTC. And then to be an instructor for JROTC, you have to have been E6, a staff sergeant or above, and retired from the Army, meaning doing more than 20 years in the Army before they will allow you to be an instructor. So that's kind of a tough thing to do. You're gonna have to spend a lot of time in the Army if you want to try to be an actual instructor or even a commanding officer in that. Now, if you're talking about you're actually in high school and you want to be at a high school level at a commanding officer, I don't know how the rank structure works in ROTC or JROTC and how fast you get promoted and at what point. You will go through, I know, different phases where you'll, either be a squad leader, a platoon leader, maybe a company commander, and all kind of stuff, different positions. I just don't know when all that kind of happens because I never went through ROTC or JROTC, sorry. So if you're talking about at that level, I don't really know too much. But I know if you wanted to be an instructor at JROTC, you have to have retired from the Army and be an E6. What was my rank again? I was a sergeant, E5. promotable. I mean, it sounds stupid when I say it that way, but I was very, very, very close to being a staff sergeant. But because I didn't have enough time in the Army, I was not able to make staff sergeant. Plus, points were very, very high for my MOS. So it also required me to pretty much have a college degree, and I didn't have time to get a college degree while I was in the Army. So I wasn't able to make points. I'm trying to go a little bit quicker through some of these comments because we're kind of towards the cutoff point where I usually try to cut these things off. So I'll only be able to answer maybe a handful of questions before we'll have to cut off the live stream for today and rejoin hopefully maybe next week. I don't know. Next week's a pretty crazy schedule for me, so I don't know if I will be able to fit in a live stream next week or not, but we'll try to do so. Happy Thursday. One more day. Center 7 Productions. What's up, man? So for me, it doesn't really matter because it's Thursday because I have to actually work this weekend. Normally I get weekends off, but this weekend after work. I won't have a day off until next week, Thursday and Friday. But I got a lot of stuff I got to do then too. So that's why I said I'm not 100% sure if I'll even get on the live stream next week. Let's see. I have a degree in criminal justice, planning to enlist, and hopefully while I'm in, I can get my bachelor's and become an officer. Yeah, that'd be ideal if you're trying to become an officer. You can work on your degree if you have time to even do it while you're in the Army. It's a tough thing to do. But if you are able to get a bachelor's degree while you're in the Army, then all you'd have to do is do the Green Gold program and then go OCS from that way. Does the type of bachelor's degree affect your chances of getting into OCS? No. As long as you have a 4-year degree, it doesn't matter what the 4-year degree is in. You'll be able to, if you have to apply for OCS, still kind of like applying for college, and you could potentially get denied. But the degree, I don't think really has that play in that. I think more so your like grades when you're, for getting your degree, I think is the more of the bigger factor. So the thing is, my school is open to starting a JROTC unit, but I'm wondering if I start the program, will I be able to be in charge of it? So at the high school level, if that's what you're talking about, like you're in high school, if that's what you're talking about, I don't know. I don't know how that'll end up playing out. But if your high school is talking about starting a JROTC program and you're looking to be on the civilian side, not in high school, you're at a high school, already graduated or whatever, and you're looking to be in charge of it, probably not. Usually still with the JROTC programs, the requirements are still usually someone who's been in the Army and retired at a higher rank. Okay, we got some people answering stuff. How long can you be in the Army? I think the max is up to a certain age. I think it's like 60 or 50 something. I don't remember. There is an age that they will let you do it, and then I think year-wise, I think it's maybe like 28, 30 years, something like that, before they're going to force you to retire. I forget what the cutoff is, but it's something around there. So you can potentially be in the Army for a very long time if you really wanted to be. Gotta run. Lovar, have a good one. Thank you for joining the stream. What else do we have? 10th Mountain deployed. Okay, thanks for answering, man. Have a good one. You are welcome. What else do we have? Bachelor's in music should be nice to become an officer. I don't think it would matter. I think they don't care what your degree is in. I think they're just gonna, as long as you have a 4-year degree, because even if you get a bachelor's in music, you still have to do math and English and all sorts of other general studies, and that's kind of the main thing, I guess. LOL, just joking, but yeah, I guess you still could do that though. Hey, Jay the Vorn, gotta go. All right, take care, man. So we are probably going to end this here. I appreciate everybody for hanging out and chatting with me and all that fun stuff. You're awesome. If you still had some comments or some questions that didn't get answered or you didn't get a chance to ask, please come back to this video after it's been processed and make sure to leave some comments down in the replay. If you are watching this replay and you have gone all the way through this point of the video and now you finally have some questions, maybe, then go ahead and leave some questions down in the comment section below. If I get a chance, then maybe next week I will try to do another live stream, but I am not 100% sure if I will have a live stream next week. I'll try to still have some more videos and all that kind of fun stuff, but as far as live streams, I don't know. We'll see if we can't work in a live stream somewhere in there in my crazy busy schedule that I have going on next week and stuff. But thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, maybe you should. Also, if you're watching this live stream and you made it all the way to this point, please hit that thumbs up button on this video. Hit that thumbs up button right now while you're at it. You're looking at it right now. I know you are. Hit that thumbs up button. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out, guys. You're awesome. You rule. I'll see you next time. See ya.